Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Speaking over last night to some of the business people that I consult regarding some of the shailas that we have to bring into the shiurim. So I want to discuss today and tomorrow, Be'ezah Hashem, some of the very common and nageya shailas that are nageya to Kashrus. Now, Kashrus brings itself many times throughout the business world. It could be nageya in any of the following and more situations, and that could be in an office that you share with goyim that are going to be eating and preparing non-kosher food. It could be going to a hotel for a conference, for example, warehouses, and all sorts of things. These are shailas that come up when I have my food with me. I store it in the fridge, I prepare it in the kitchen, we use the same coffee urn, we use the same microwave, I put my meat sandwich in the fridge. There is a lot of different shailas that we have to try to go through. And we're going to try, Be'ezah Hashem, in 2 shiurim to encapsulate as much as we can some of the most common shailas that are nageya lagabe kashrus that could be applicable in the workplace. Again, we're dealing with shailas of course, kelim of goyim. We're dealing with basa v'cholov. We're dealing with shalei basa shenis alim in ayin, leaving kelim amongst goyim. There's a lot to discuss, and Be'ezah Hashem will try one by one to go through some of the most common shailas. These are nageya, the truth is, even not in the workplace, as are many of the shailas that we deal with over here in these shiurim, but we're trying to focus as much as we can of how do we direct them to the things that are nageya in the workplace. So we'll start number one. Very simple case. I want to eat my kosher sandwich on a non-kosher table, right? This could be nageya in the office. This could be nageya when I go to a restaurant, by the way, in wine. We'll talk about a different time. That will get to the shailas of yain nesach and, wining and dining with goyim. That's a whole different shaila in restaurants. That will get to besugya acheres be'ezah Hashem. But now I'm talking about I go to a hotel, I have a meeting with a few people. There's a non-kosher table over there that people eat tray food on. I want to eat my kosher food. Is that a problem? So me'ika hadin, as long as it's clean, there is no problem. Obviously, if it's dirty, then obviously clean it up. But if it's clean, me'ika hadin, there is no problem with eating kosher food on a non-kosher table. Obviously, we're discussing things that are not being put hot on the table itself. Maybe we'll talk about that in a moment. But I'll upon him, if I'm eating a sandwich, or I'm eating whatever it is, something small on the table, as long as the table is 100% clean, it's okay. There are those that are machmeh that say to put either a tablecloth if you can, or maybe a tissue or a napkin on it, just to make sure that there's no schmutz, there's no grease or anything on there that could be problematic. That is number one. Number two, very nageya shaila. Sometimes a workspace, an office, will have a shared sort of like dining room area where everybody sits lunchtime and they eat their lunch. So here's the shaila. I'm eating my milchik sandwich, and the guy's eating a fleishik sandwich, and we're eating on the same table. Everyone here is familiar with the Gemara, with the Mishnah in Chulin Kuf Daled, Shulchan Aruch in Yodei Simon Peches, that tells us very clearly that you can't have meat and milk on the very same table. If that's the case, then that should be a problem for a person to do that. What's the reason for that? Is because if you have meat and milk on the same table, we're worried that a person will take one from the other. However, says the Mishnah, says the Shulchan Aruch, if it is a shulchan, if it's a table that's more like a counter that you're serving from there, then it's okay. So for example, if you have a countertop, all right, the office gives you a countertop where people prepare their lunches or whatever it may be. I've been to offices in America where it's not just lunch. People are there dinner time also. They are serving hot food. There's goyim there. There's yidden there. These things can happen. People are serving, people are preparing their hot, sandwich with meat over there on one side, and I'm on the other side preparing my cheese sandwich or my cheese salad or whatever it may be. Is that mutter? So it's a counter that you don't eat from. Then there's no problem with a person having meat and milk on the same countertop because you don't eat from there. It's only a table that people eat from. That's when it's going to be a problem. I asked once from Chaim Kanievsky Zatzal, what is the din if there's, for example, a bench, and you're sitting on a bench outside, I'm eating my shawarma, and somebody else is eating a cheese sandwich, so meat, milk, but there's no table. So I asked from Chaim Kanievsky Zatzal, what's the din? She said to me, there's no problem. Chazal will go, only a table. If there's no table, there's no problem. You can't come along and be moisef to the gzeira. I once asked him as well, if you're on an aeroplane, right, and you're sitting, azoi tight in an aeroplane, eating a meat sandwich, and the guy next to you is eating a milk sandwich, a cheese sandwich on his little tight like that. Now you have two separate tables. You pull down the table, you've got two separate tables, right? But you're very close to each other. Is that a problem or not? And he told me there's no problem with that whatsoever, because it's two separate tables. Two separate tables, there's no problem. It's only on one table. We're not discussing too much about the chalav over here, as much as it would be exciting to do so. But just the Indian over here. So again, if I'm sitting on the table, milk and meat, two Jews that know each other. See base, peichas, very good Zev. Therefore, if that's the case, we know each other, we're worried. However, if it's Eina Makim, if we don't know each other, that's already a different situation, because we're not worried that a person will come to eat for one to the other. However, we're all familiar with the shach, see cotton base, where the shach brings down that at the end of the day, if it's treif, so then maybe it's okay. And there's Chochma and others as well, that if it's tray food, then we're not so worried. In other words, if I'm eating my cheese sandwich and he's eating his tray for sandwich, that's mamish tray we're talking about. If that's the case, we're not geyser, that person will come to eat it in that case. But by the way, in the fridge, again, this is often a Mishnah, in a fridge, there's no problem with storing milk and meat as long as they are covered and self-contained, not dripping and whatever it may be. There's no problem in having a communal fridge for the oilam, and me putting my cheese sandwich, my meat sandwich, and the goy or even the Jew has over there cheese sandwiches or the opposite. That's not a problem as long as obviously they are self-wrapped. We will discuss, probably tomorrow, we'll get to the shaila of Basar Shanas Alim and Ayin, which is a major kasha, what to do when a person leaves meat and fish and cheese and whatever it may be, and when there are goyim around. So that we'll get to Be'ez Hashem. Okay? Let's move on, Rabbi Isai. Let's move on. Let's talk about a hotel, going to a hotel with a conference, going to a hotel for a meeting, and they're serving me. Obviously, I'm not eating the hotel food because I want to eat kosher food. So what they do is they serve me a plate, and on that plate is cut up fruit, right? Something like that. So what could be the problem with cut up fruit? Obviously, there's no problem in that case over there. So the Shulchan Aruch tells us, the Olam are learning it right now in Siman Sadi Aleph Seed Base, very clearly. The Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah Be'etzem says that I'm allowed to use a kli that a goy used as long as it is obviously, number one, clean, and number two, it was never boileya hot. It was only used for cold foods. So therefore, according to that, just to make it simple, a glass, without the shider of glass, but the glass would be okay. Why? Because they only use it for cold drinks. And therefore, again, Tfilas Kelim, we spoke about already before, there's no problem with Tfilas Kelim. It's a Goysha hotel, a Goysha restaurant, a Goysha place. There's no Chir Tfilas Kelim of a Goy. The fact that I'm using it, I got no Chir Tfilah. We spoke about this previously. There's no Tfilas Kelim Shaila. The Shaila is Kashrus. Okay? And therefore, if that's the case, a glass is something that's generally only absorbed with cold, we're not worried, and it's clean. I'm yotza both shitas of the Ramah in Siman Sadi Aleph Siv Base. However, there's a Machlokes Taz and Shach. The Shach says quite clearly that what? That he's cholik on the Ramah, says the Shach Nochi, right? And he holds, today's for hair, and he holds that at the end of the day, even if it was absorbed with heat, as long as it's clean, then it's mutter. Which means, according to that if a goy gives me a plate that was used for mamish hot chaza, but right now it's 100% clean, there is no problem to use something dry and cold on that clean. Maybe not davar chorif, which is a sharp food, which is again a whole different sugya, which we can't go into at this moment of time. And obviously, providing that it's clean, which Rav Elyashiv Zatzal paskin that most times you don't have to be worried about whether it's clean or not. Let's talk about a microwave for a moment. Very nogeya shaila. What's the halacha of using one microwave when, again, this could be, by the way, people think I'm talking about a Goyish office. I'm talking about even a Yiddish office. I speak to people all the time who've got businesses, who've got offices, who've got warehouses, and these shaylas come up. It's even a Yiddish office. They provide a microwave, and the Goyim are there who are also heating up their food in the same microwave. What's the halacha? So very, very bekitzer, Rabbi Isai. We all are familiar with the Mishnah in Mesachtas Machshirim, which is also Tshuvas HaRosh, which is also Tshuvas HaBach, which is also Aruch HaShulchan, which is also Ramon, Siman Sadi Beis in Yeridea, that basically tells us that Zeya is a very dangerous thing. Zeya is steam, right? The Mishnah tells us that Zeya, the Rosh Paskins Halacha L'Maisa, that Zeya steam has a din of the item itself. That means that when somebody goes into this microwave and puts a piece of meat and the steam comes up, so the steam is like the steak, and therefore now the walls of the oven, of the microwave, whatever, have now been absorbed by this tray for steak. Now I'm going to go along and put my soup in there. That soup is going to steam back again. It's going to be koilet. It's going to grab hold of of the steam that's previously absorbed in the microwave walls and bring it back down to my food. If that's the case, we have a problem. And the olam are asking, but what about the Piskei Tshuva that brings the Ma'aseh Shulchan passing this way? If it's got Mokum Nispasha, if it's got a place to go, and it's not concentrated, then maybe it'll be okay. Be'ez Hashem, later on in the Faheh, we'll go through some of these in Yonim. But Al Kaponim, a halacha with a microwave would be very simple, that if it's double wrapped, and you're not worried that it's going to pop, because in a microwave things can pop, and obviously make sure you only wrap it with things that are wrappable and microwavable, because if it's not microwavable, then it's going to be a problem. I don't know if it's a word, but we just made it up. But Al Kaponim, if it's going to pop, then you have a problem. But if it's double wrapped, even in a goysha tray for microwave, that will be okay. By the way, just interesting, we haven't got too long, but just an interesting shaila. If your workmate says, oh, you're going to the kitchen? Do me a favor. I have a sandwich. Could you throw it into the microwave for me? Just throw them. I have a sandwich. I need it hot. Could you just throw my sandwich into the communal microwave, right? It's, whatever it is. Am I allowed to do that? Now it's wrapped up. No worry, it's wrapped up 14 times, right? Beautiful. No problem of zayah, no problem of steam, no problem of anything, right? Should be okay. What's the problem? There's no problem of zayah, but there is a problem because we're familiar with the Ramah in Simon Pei Zayin that says that's a suffix whether or not inside, providing obviously we have the suffix, that inside the sandwich that maybe he has a piece of salami and he has a slice of cheese. And by putting it into the microwave, I am over on the Issa Abasha, Bishul Basa B'cholav. You'll tell me a microwave, is it Bishul, is it not Bishul? What Moshe said it's Daraisa. I think what Moshe is enough to be Saimachon to say it's a Daraisa. So if that's the case, but you'll tell me it's only a suffix. Beseda. So it's a Machaikis with Kiva Egan, the Taz, in Arachaim Simon Shin Tezayim by the Sugya of Tzeda on Shabbos Kodesh, which is also Chadusha Reb Shmuel Ksubas Semen Zayin as well, that goes to the sugya whether or not you're over on bishul if you don't even know that there's a basa v'cholav in there. So upon him, try to stay away from the sugya of throwing things into the microwave, especially if they're going to become hot by a goy that you're not sure if there's basa v'cholav inside there. Using the same sink. For those of you that are familiar with Simon Sadi Hay, that's the sugya of the sink sugya, which obviously has tremendous amount of shilas, because if you have a sink and I'm washing up my kalim in the same sink that the goy used to wash up his kalim, so I have a problem, right? We're familiar, when half metal gets hot, the whole thing gets hot. But in the case over here, if you're using cold water and you're washing up the dishes only in cold or under yad soy ledes boy, then you're for sure okay. In many offices, they don't even offer hot water, and if they do, some of it's only lukewarm, which means there was no blias b'chlal. But if there are blias and you're using hot, then you have to be very careful, because the sink could have been balea a few minutes ago from the guy who poured down his hot tray soup, and now I'm washing up my coffee cup in the same sink with hot water. There'll be blias, right? And if there's going to be blias, then I have a problem. And nachanami, if I use soap, then the Ramon then nachanami could be it's pogum, and therefore it will pogum the blias. But lachatchera, to do that, person should try to make sure that he only uses lukewarm water. Moving on the same sugya, but a similar one. We mentioned the tables in the beginning, right? Everyone's familiar with the Ramah on the end of Simon Sadi base. Ein kli bolei mekli below wrote it. There's a ganze sefer they wrote just on that line. One line of the Ramah, whole sefer. Ein kli bolei mekli below wrote it. That means one utensil and another utensil cannot absorb for one another if there's no liquid medium in between. How much liquid? Ein chavastas. But I'll put him. In a case over here, when I have a sink, for example, and I'm using my coffee cup, right? So what do I do in this case? I want to make sure that it doesn't boil from the sink. So if everything's dry, there's no problem. If I put my chicken soup, boiling hot pot of chicken soup, on a counter that was used for treif mamish 10 minutes ago, as long as the counter is 100% clean, it's okay. True, the Ramah says, lechatchila, you shouldn't do it, which Rabbi Moshe says maybe it wasn't talking about that, because he brings a Taz and Simon Tzadi Zayin, that says not that way. Rabbi said there's a lot to discuss over here, but you can understand how careful a person has to be in that case. Using the hot water kettle is generally going to be mutter, even if it's used also by goyim, unless you see the goy put the spout, he dips the spout, or he dips his tray for soup into the spout itself, then obviously the spout will become tray. But in a regular case, by hot water urns that are used for the oilam to use for coffee, that has no chashash whatsoever. Common shaila, are you allowed to go to a hotel and use a kettle that, is used in the hotel room, and I want to use it for a coffee? Do I have to be choishesh for the fact that maybe the goy last night that was in my hotel room used to, heat up his, who knows what he did over there, So somebody sent me already last night the video of a famous guy that he saw in the kettle remnants of chazer mamish inside that they boiled up. Pashtus is, if you open it up and it looks clean, you don't have to be choshish that maybe the guy put something treif in there, and therefore you will be allowed to use that. A can opener, by the way, common shaila. People ask, are you allowed to use a can opener that they provide for the oilam? You know, people open tuna cans and stuff like that. Are you worried about anything? The answer is if it's clean, there's nothing generally to be worried in that case over there. Rabbi Sai, we have two more shailas that we have to cover tomorrow, and that is a common shaila that people don't know about leaving kalim amongst goyim, which, by the way, anybody that has cleaning help, a goy in the house, you've got the same shaila which people don't even chat, which we'll get to tomorrow, and basa shenas alim and ayim, which again, leaving my sandwiches and food in the communal fridge when there's goyim around. Mitzvah Shem, tomorrow we'll discuss. Have an amazing day.